Hey, great people, it's Lori Pelzer. I had no intentions of going live tonight, but I have set the intention in my heart that now was the time for me to go live. As a woman leader, as a woman who is Black in America, as a woman who wished she could be out on the front lines right in this moment in Atlanta, Georgia. Had I known that there would be a protest, had I known there was being a protest organized, I would have been on those front lines. Are the people that's live that we can see right in this moment all across the country, are they thugs? They are not thugs. They're revolutionaries. They're revolutionists. They're political leaders. They've served their country in various ways, whether that's getting up and going to work as an essential worker, whether that's giving into serving in the armed forces and fighting wars that they may have never believed in. They are just like South Africa, when Nelson Mandela fought against the tyranny and became anti-apartheid. There is a revolution happening right before our eyes. And what I want you to do for a few minutes with me is take a journey to understand why you are seeing what you are seeing. As my family and I looked, my TV is on right now. And as I look at what's happening, as CNN is covering the riots, I can only think of several very important people in history. I can only think of stories that represent this time. 1865, I want to read you something. In the absence of any means to supply free slaves with land, the Freedmen's Bureau and Northern military commanders stationed in the South encouraged blacks to enter into labor contracts with whites. The results were written agreements between whites and black farm hands filled with provisions aimed at restoring the subjugated state of African Americans. Subjugated. One agent of the Freedmen's Bureau wrote that whites were unable to fathom that work could be accomplished without some binding and obligating hiring to the employer. So, what happened next is very important. Some white plantation owners attempted to coerce their former slaves into signing lifetime contracts to work on their farms. Lifetime contracts is what I want you to grab hold of. So we have entered into a lifetime contract of being property, of being owned. It's almost as though there's been an unwritten past, and this unwritten past has given America, white supremacy America, those who believe we shouldn't be here, those who believe we don't deserve to be here, those that believe we're never nothing more and nothing less than those who farm and till their land. This really does something to me. Have we truly been emancipated? Absolutely, and absolutely not. And in this moment, as you watch on your television what's happening in America, across cities, nationwide, in a protest, not just for Floyd, not just for one life, but for many lives, the echoed of lives that look like me, the echoes of lives, African American lives. And I understand it like Sojourner Truth understood it. Ain't I a woman? Ain't I a woman is what she said as she went for freedom. I understand it like Malcolm X helped us to understand it by any means necessary. And I know that that feels hard, and I know right now that doesn't feel good to hear unless you are absolutely sold out to the idea. But Malcolm said in his address of police brutality, we are oppressed, we are exploited, we are denied not only civil rights, but human rights. There was nothing human in the idea to think that that one police officer with among his cohorts, his co-workers, his buddies in arms, could put his foot and knee on a man's neck. This is not a protest of thugs. This is a protest like any other protest where there had to be a revolution. And if I had known, as I just stated, that there was a protest happening, I'm not sure what I was tuned out of, and I'm not sure what I needed to tune into, but I will make sure that I'm tuned in enough to come and bring a message to those who have an ear to hear, exactly like Nelson Mandela did. See, we hear the story of Nelson Mandela, but we don't understand the acts in which it took to not only become the face of the anti-apartheid movement, but what it took to change a generation of ideas that no longer had any business existing. It is not what we do in our times of comfort. It is what we do in our times of controversy. And as a woman leader who's tomorrow getting ready to shoot my first part of my documentary, getting ready for my Girls Your Life tour coming on the digital screen all across America this year, I sit in my home in a malcontent disposition. This malcontent disposition is a character, a type of appearance, a way that you feel when you feel that you're completely dissatisfied and you're completely done. That rebellious spirit, that discontent, that grouch that comes up into your belly that says rebel or die. This is not anything new to us. This is not new. It's just we become new. We become new. We've become so new that we're so comfortable and we're so content and we're so safe. We have felt that if we just get to middle class, we felt that if we just get ourselves to the suburbs, we felt that if we just get 2 degrees and 3 degrees, that we will no longer be left behind. But that is not our truth. Like the fate of Moses, still at war. It said it was unknown. We never knew whether he was dead or alive till one day after the war was over. This is a story of 1862. Moses started over, they said, resettling on nearby land along the creek, marrying the daughter of another former slave-holding family. The losses suffered by Moses and the slow rescue of his family in the heat of a war became a parable how white Southerners, those who believe that we belong on chains and we belong either dead or we belong in non-existence, perceive the destruction of the South and the physical and financial devastation that's happening in this very moment is just like 1865, 1862. We could perceive this as these are derelicts. These are young people out of control. However you see it, I want to leave you with this. There are scores of stories in our history that have never been told, or you may not know them, that sits to this very moment in a purposeful way. I want you to understand that brutality of any human being is wrong, but the brutality of the constant, consistent, the whole idea of the black community being the receiver of such brutality can no longer be our system, can no longer be accepted, can no longer be what we sit around and just talk about. We got to be about it. I want to hail the young people that are out there in those streets across the United States. I know that the mayor of Atlanta, she is not happy. She made a comment that for me didn't sit well with me. They shared a clip, and it just was a clip. It wasn't her whole entire story, that I'm pretty sure they only gave just that clip for some reason or another. But what she said was Ted Turner built the CNN building, or bought CNN here. And it's not anything about Ted. It's all about the old slavery, the new slavery system that we exist in today. How many more deaths? How many more? Is it you or is it me next? It's like a steam-powered machine. It's like being in a sawmill. It's like lumber grinding corn. It's what it feels like to watch yet another black man, woman, or child be killed. So there is absolutely no reason for anyone to feel that this is about several out of control individuals who want to loot and steal. That is not what this is. This is about freedom. This is about freedom. This is about freedom by any means necessary. This is about being tired, systematically being dragged to a place where you no longer can be a spectator. You must be someone willing to stand. So if you're not willing to stand, I offer you this tonight. Don't talk. Be quiet. If you're willing to stand, speak. We need your voice and we need your power. Do not be separate in this moment about what you actually think is happening because it seems to feel mischievous, or there seems to be this horrid view of people, citizens, Americans, humanity attacking our police forces. While that is not a great look, neither is another man, woman, or child being killed in cold blood. So in this moment, I ask for you to think. I ask for you to think and think much harder about where we've been as a people, where we've been from slavery to our current state of being. Who stood on the front lines? What was the cost? What was the cost? What was the cost? And if the cost was what we see right here, don't be split and don't be divided. Be committed to getting involved, because it is the end of a time where we remain enslaved. It is the beginning of a time that we receive our freedom. It is the beginning of a time for hope and self-determination. It is the beginning of a time for new levels of economic and educational opportunities. It is a new time for our full rights as citizens to be not only respected, but to be protected. I stand with those who've protested. We're driven into this moment. This moment will define what a polarized system has done, a disenfranchised system has created. So I ask for you to outreach. Go in and outreach. Do not sit in your safe space and just talk among yourselves or post among yourselves. I'm going to find how I can get involved. This is freedom. This is freedom. Give me liberty or give me death. I'm glad that I could turn on my phone tonight and talk about the promise of freedom. The promise of freedom for every one of us, formerly enslaved men and women, from the descendants of those. Freedom meant an end to the whip and not a beginning to the foot or the knee on our necks as we cry, as we beg for our lives, as we walk to the store with a hoodie on it, a certain neighborhood, and in a certain time, in a certain place, we are mandated to behave. It's the promise of freedom that has given us the promise that we can live where we want. We can drive what we want. We can create the careers of our choice. The promise of freedom. Hear me. That we no longer have to fear being sold and whipped and raped and killed. Now we are free. John Adams, a former slave, wrote, "Now we are free." Now we are free. What we do want, we want education. We want protection. We want plenty of work. We want good pay for it, but not any more or less than any other else person. And then you will see the downtrodden race rise up. John Adams, a former slave. So the decision is yours. Thank you, Charlie, for sharing. Thank you for being here, Carolyn. Thank you for sharing. The promise of freedom for so long was just a promise, but it was realized. And all of the realization happened. All of these realizations happened in moments that never gave us a view that made us feel good. The promise of freedom held out for the promise of hope, of self-determination in this moment is what you see when you see riots, protests. When you see it, it's the promise of freedom held by the hope of educational opportunities and the full rights of citizenship and protection. And I want it. I was so heightened when I was out today getting some items as I get prepared tomorrow for the taping of my own documentary, A Woman's Story, other women that will join me, stories of women with bold stories and brave moments against all odds who've had big successes. As I get ready for my Girls Your Life tour live, I've had this insatiable desire to want to do something. And I got so in a space where I felt like part of me was just crumbling in the inside because I felt so helpless. But I know that I'm not. And I know that there is freedom in this moment. And freedom comes sometime at the highest price. And that is war. And that war may look like the war of holding back economics, the war of standing in the face of tyranny. And whatever that looks like and however that looks, it's the promise of freedom. We're on the battlegrounds, ladies and gentlemen. And it's time for you to decide that you're going to get on the battleground. You cannot go to work any longer. You cannot go to church any longer the same way, doing the same thing. You cannot just sit among your friends. COVID-19 changed that. And have the same gatherings with the same feelings. You are now reaching for the promise of freedom. 1865, 1862, the stories I shared. So for those of you who are just joining, I am sending you off with the idea that despite what you're seeing, it is bigger than what you're seeing. You got to dig a little deeper. And you got to find more than just what the green looks like in this. You got to go so deep that you go into the whole of what it means to have freedom taken from you and freedom wiped from you and your whole idea of protection. in non-existence. You got to go there to find the answer to what we're seeing on our TVs in disbelief, but it is very believable. It's very believable. Thank you for hearing me tonight. Share this video with whoever you believe needs confidence in this moment. But there will be hope at the end of this thing. There will be hope at the end of this thing. That we're no longer an oppressed people, an exploited people, and denied our civil rights and denied our human rights and our protection under the law. Like Nelson Mandela, like Sojourner Truth, like the woman who freed the slaves, Harriet Tubman. Give me freedom or give me death. We are in the reenactment of a period of time that has come full circle to us. So I hope that I plant something in your heart for understanding that this is not about thugs. This is about the real story of 400 years of oppression. This is like a colorless winter. It feels like that in this moment. Instead of a grand, beautiful, flowery landscape of flowers and beautiful sun, it rained for the last 3 days. It rained energetically. It rained spiritually. Hearts are crying, and there needs to be a cleansing. And as I watch this protest across the United States, I only wish that I could be present. I only wish that I knew about Atlanta standing, and I would have been there. Have a great night. Sit in some of the words I shared. Don't allow your luxuries. Don't allow your safety. Don't allow your old thinking to drive you into a place of sitting. Get involved. Find out what's next and how you will be a part of the change that we so desperately need. And to all my white sisters and brothers, ones that are connected to me in my social media world, I've had some great people of non-color to be a part of my journey to success. But what I do know, this is a larger problem. It's not about one great white family or one great white buddy or one great Asian friend or one great Pakistani co-worker. This is about humanity who's been milled together to acquire the hate and pain and phobias from and through to each other. This is about changing a continent and a consciousness of humanity. So by now, you should be feeling something. And you should be feeling, what is it that I'm called to do and be in this moment? As a woman leader, I'm not called to short circuit this conversation or scuffle about or twist and turn, wondering, okay, do I go and help women grow their business right now? Absolutely, I do that. Do I go help women find her greatness? Absolutely, I do that. But do I also pack in messages and unpack messages that affect each of us because we are part of this humanity? Absolutely, I do that. Power to us as humanity. Power to us as a people. Do not let anybody stand on your neck. You fight to the death. You fight because you are part of freedom. May freedom reign. I'm loving you right in this moment. I'm cheering for you, and I wish you the best as we navigate COVID-19, as we navigate this moment in history, and as we navigate our lives and our families, and as we navigate our works and our dreams and our goals. God bless you.